You awoke with the weight of the sun still hidden behind the dunes, the dry scent of papyrus and sand invading your nostrils. Beneath your bare feet, the cold stone floor was rough, jagged, a constant reminder that you were no longer free. Today, like every day, your fingers trembled slightly as they brushed against the ancient relics, the dull energy of the tomb wrapping each movement. The whisper of mummies, the nearly inaudible murmur of ancient chains, accompanied your sweat as you prepared the offering that must guarantee your survival. Every repeated gesture, from the meticulous cleaning to the precise placing of the amulet, reinforced the monotonous weight of this task, surviving the Akhenaton curse, whose silent, deathly presence haunted all who dared disturb his rest. The air was heavy with the slow burning of incense, blending with the dusty, damp stone smell, while outside, the distant wind dragged grains of sand against the temple walls. You knew that to escape, you had to repeat the ritual without error, to perform each step in the slow, patient rhythm of someone living on the threshold between life and death, trapped by the endless silence of history. The silence here had a different weight, a cold promise clinging to your spine before the first pale light of dawn. The faint blue of the early morning sky seeped through the cracks above, its muted glow barely touching the heavy shadows draping the tomb's interior. Your breath, shallow and steady, mingled with the musty aroma of old smoke lingering in the air, while your worn linen clothing, the only barrier between your skin and the relentless stone, scratched softly against your arms. Outside, the scattered flicker of fading stars whispered of a world distant and unreachable. You move slowly, each motion deliberate and aching with the knowledge of the precarious balance keeping you alive. The cold floor pressed against your soles, each grain of sand beneath the stone-like hardness whispering secrets lost to time. The air was thick, not just with dust, but with a quiet tension, like that moment when a village falls silent at night before the first dog's uncertain bark fades into stillness. It was a silence that felt alive, watching you, waiting. If today a dead phone battery drives frantic nerves in the modern world, you imagined how it must have felt long ago to see the last flicker of flame die in a fire, leaving nothing but darkness and cold swallowing the night. Your hands worked mechanically, dusting off a small stone tablet carved with faded hieroglyphs, tracing the cold surface again and again, hesitant as the token of your fragile hope. Nearby, a thin ray of dawn light touched a corner of the altar, softening the harsh angles with a gentle glow. For a fleeting moment, that warm light offered a shared breath of comfort, much like the quiet camaraderie of a fire's glow among distant friends. But the relief was fragile, broken by a sudden stillness. The faint sounds of desert life muffled and shifting, abruptly ceased. No footsteps stirred outside. No distant calls reached your ears. Even the restless air seemed to pause, as if holding its breath alongside you. Somewhere beyond the temple's walls, the low murmurs of others had vanished, leaving only the distant echo of your own heartbeat hammering against ancient stone. A glance toward the shadowed entrance caught a flicker of movement, too still to be unnoticed. A subtle exchange of glances between figures unseen. Their eyes heavy, the oppressive weight of the curse seemed to deepen in that silence, promising that the next steps would test the limits of your resolve, where every detail would matter. Before Morpheus claims you completely, take a quick moment to check if you're still subscribed. For some, the button has disappeared, and I don't want you to miss the next bedtime stories. While you're here, leave a like as soft as a pillow. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Your interaction keeps this little corner of calm alive. Thanks for being part of it. You freeze as the faint movement lingers just beyond the entrance's shadow. The silence suddenly denser, as if the very air around you has thickened to molasses. Your breath hitches, shallow and cautious, eyes straining toward the shape outlined barely by the faintest seepage of dawn light. You dare not shift too quickly. Every muscle tightens with the sharp edge of anticipation, and a bead of sweat traces a slow, cold path down the side of your temple, disturbing the cracked dirt on your skin. The whispering wind begins again outside, dragging dry grains of sand across the temple threshold, the sound like soft scratching on ancient parchment. Yet inside, the sanctuary remains unyielding in its stillness. Your fingers, trembling less now, but still hesitant, return to the worn amulet, resting beside the altar's edge, the one you meticulously placed minutes before. Each motion a silent prayer, woven into the slow ritual you cannot break. The cold metal feels strangely comforting against your palm, solid and unyielding, in contrast to the fragile pulse of your nerves. You bend slightly, dusting the stone surface near the carvings, your touch ghost-like across the etched lines of forgotten hieroglyphs. Each symbol holds weight, a heavy reminder of the curse woven into this silent tomb. You can almost hear the faint echoes of voices trapped in the stone, a chorus of lingering dread beneath the dust. The walls seem to lean inward, close enough to press their cold breath against your skin, making the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. Step by step, you shift your weight forward, feeling the rough stone bite into your soles through the thin linen. The faint glow from the earliest light outside shimmers against the dust motes, dancing lazily in the cool, still air. The scent of incense lingers, mingling with the stale aroma of ancient stone, damp and silent, Somewhere deep within, the echo of a distant clack, the careful placing of a stone sliding into a slot, reminds you of the countless subtle movements that have kept you tethered to survival. Your eyes trace the shadows where the two figures had exchanged glances. There is fearful intelligence in the stillness, a pulse of watchful waiting carried in the quiet communion of bodies hidden just beyond your sight. You sense their presence like the rustle of dry leaves before a storm, expectant and tense. The quiet suffocates the breath from your lungs, pressing hard against your ribs. Slowly, methodically, you draw a breath that tastes faintly of dust and smoke. The dry air scratches the back of your throat as you reach for the bowl of water, resting near the altar's base. You lift it with care, its cool surface reflecting the faint, shifting light, rippling softly with your hand's slight tremor. You dip your fingers into the water, feeling the chill sink against the dry heat of your skin. The action, small but deliberate, steadies you. The ritual demands this precision. No movement too hasty, no chance for error. Your heart drum beats softly now against your chest, merging with the stone's unyielding stillness around you. A fragment of warmth lingers in the tip of your fingers, a fleeting comfort as you dab the water over the small offering you prepared. Grains of ancient herbs scattered carefully on the altar's broad ledge. You imagine the subtle scent rising, mingling with the incense, vapor mixing with the breath of the past. A soft crackle from somewhere just beyond your hearing interrupts the fragile calm, sending a shiver through your spine. You freeze again, the cold of the stone floor seeping deep into the soles of your feet. A breeze curls through the narrow cracks near the ceiling, tugging ghost-like at your loose linen, stirring the dust at your feet. Your eyes dart quickly to the corner shadow, where a flicker of movement once more betrays the silent watchers. Your lungs tighten with a quiet dread, but you do not move. Instead, you sink into the weight of your task, recalling the slow rhythm that has kept you alive so far. You press each finger lightly against the smooth surface of another tablet, fingers exploring its worn grooves, as if seeking the hidden meanings left by long-dead hands. The cool stone, rough ridges beneath your skin, grounding you in this moment caught between history and a perilous present. Outside, the wind's whisper grows, carrying the faint, indistinct howl of a distant desert creature, lost to the morning's chill. Inside, the tremors in your hands persist, tiny but electric, as you repeat, once again, the ritual's exact steps, the brushing, the placing, the stretching toward the thin flicker of light that filters through high cracks. Each gesture stretches time, elongating minutes into endless hours, binding you more tightly to patience, to this fragile breath held between day and night. Gradually, a strange stillness settles over the temple once more. The distant watchers retreat deeper into shadow, their presence becoming less a threat and more a silent puzzle. Your gaze lingers on the amulet's faint glimmer. It is both shield and promise. A slow, sharp realization dawns like the sun's first hard edge. The curse does not wait. Every breath you take, every motion you make, is part of an unending dance with time, where one false step could break the fragile thread between survival and silence. As your hands finally fold, resting still upon the cold stone, the temple holds its breath with you, and somewhere, just beyond the veil of shadow, a faint whisper curls through the air, an almost inaudible warning, or perhaps an invitation. You lift your eyes again toward a darkened passage unseen before, where the faintest glimmer pulses like a heartbeat in the depths, drawing you forward into mysteries too heavy to ignore. You hold your breath as the faint glimmer pulses steadily from the darkened passage, like a distant heartbeat reaching out through the shadows. Every sense sharpens, the weight of the stone pressing closer, as if the walls themselves lean in to listen to your next move. The heavy scent of incense lingers, mixing with the damp chill that seeps from the floor beneath you, swallowing the fragile warmth left by your breath. Your bare feet hesitate on the rough stone, the texture uneven and jagged, each step a slow balancing act between caution and the necessity of motion. The cool hardness presses insistently against your soles, grounding you. In this tense present, as the air thickens with unspoken waiting, you shift forward, your fingers tracing the edge of the altar once more, seeking strength in the worn grooves carved long ago. The stone is cold, unforgiving. Even ancient dust seems to sigh beneath your touch. The faint glow from beyond the corridor pulses again, steady and slow, like a lantern swaying in a distant gust. You sense eyes hidden within the dark, watching not with hostility, but with patient calculation. Every movement must carry the weight of a whispered promise, practiced countless times, yet never becoming less perilous. The air hums low, as if the tomb itself breathes alongside you, the thick silence stretching taut between the crumbling walls. You begin to move forward, footstep by hesitant footstep. The faint grinding sound of stone against stone, barely louder than your own measured breath. Sand shifts faintly around your ankles, stirred by the delicate currents that weave through cracks high above, carrying scents of dust, smoke, and something older, almost forgotten. Each exhale mingles with the stale air, a subtle cloud dissipating into the shadows between fallen bricks. Passing the threshold of the passage, you find the space narrow, walls close and worn, the rough stone mottled with streaks of darker stains, where moisture has settled and dried through centuries. Your fingertips brush against the jagged surface as if seeking its secret, smooth and grimy in patches, sharp and fractured in others. A slow drip echoes somewhere deeper, the water's cold murmur distantly soothing amid the suffocating quiet. The faint glimmer now transforms into a series of intermittent flickers, a glow shifting like candlelight held by unsteady hands, a cadence equal parts caution and endurance. The dusty air feels dense, crawling along your skin like a dry, whispering veil. Your hand hovers over the amulet in your palm, the metal cool but alive somehow against your fingertips, a constant tether to the fragile hope embedded within this endless routine. A sudden subtle shift to your right catches your eye. The shadow of movement, smooth and deliberate, almost fluid in its silence. You freeze, every nerve poised on an invisible thread. The wind outside picks up, scraping grains of sand along the ancient stone threshold. A soft, rough whisper that contrasts with the stillness around you. The scent of burning herbs curls faintly on the air, weaving through your senses, reminding you again of the ritual that must never falter. You step deeper into the passage, the cold pressing against your skin, the linen of your garment brushing with feathery softness. The sound of your movement is barely more than a breath, a careful shifting as you place each step precisely. Cracks overhead allow slithers of pre-dawn light to seep in. Thin, fragile shafts that dissolve quickly in the shadows. Dust motes float suspended in the beams, drifting slowly, like the remnants of long-past moments caught endlessly in the temple's eternal dusk. Your gaze lingers on the walls, where faded glyphs shimmer faintly in the dim light, each symbol a silent word, an echo of voices long silenced. Your fingers linger briefly over a cracked passage, tracing lines carved deep with wear and reverence. The sacred script hums quietly beneath your touch, as if holding its breath with you, guarding secrets held too close to reveal. You pause near an alcove where a faint warmth radiates, an irregular pocket in the cold stone where incense once burned, its ashes scattered like powdered stars. You draw a slow breath, letting the swirling fragrance wash over you, calming jagged nerves with whispered promises of protection. The shadows here thicken, brush lightly against your skin like unseen fingers, and you focus on the delicate thrum of your pulse, steady and unwavering. A low, distant rumble vibrates through the earth, subtle yet resonant, like the echo of a deep sigh from within the tomb's heart. You do not move immediately, letting the vibration pass through your bones, feeling it tether you to this precarious moment, suspended between dread and hope. Your fingers close tight around the amulet once again, the cold metal warm against your skin, carrying with it the weight of countless repeated motions. You remember the slow rituals, the dusting, the placing, the silent prayers, all stretched thin across unending days. Each action is a fragile thread, weaving together survival and silence in equal measure. Ahead, the passage opens into a wider chamber, shadowed and still, where the flickering light pulses softly against polished stone. You step forward slowly, the cold air brushing past you like a silent breath drawn across ancient carvings. The pulse grows steady, more insistent, no longer just light, but a slow, breathing presence in the dark. And then, just as your eyes begin to adjust, the faint glow resolves into a single, small flame, a solitary torch ignited deep within the chamber's heart, its flickering light casting long, trembling shadows that stretch like fingers across the vast, silent walls. You sense, more than see, the slow shifting of stone beyond the light, a quiet opening, as if the tomb itself begins to reveal its secrets. Silent warning. And you realize the path unfolding before you is one only the desperate dare follow. Your breath catches, and the slow dance with shadow deepens, drawing you toward the unknown, where survival and silence balance on the edge of a single flickering flame. You step deeper into the chamber, feeling the cold air fold around you like an ancient shroud. Your bare feet press against the smooth stone floor, each step measured and deliberate. The torch's flicker casts dancing shadows that stretch long and wavering, as if reaching and pulling at the very walls, threatening to swallow the fragile light whole. The scent of burnt resin curls softly through the air, mingling with the faintly metallic taste that rises in your throat, a reminder that the air here holds memories, some better left untouched. Your fingers linger briefly on the cold stone beside the torch, tracing the grooves and worn carvings that edge the forgotten threshold. Each curve and notch tells a silent story, whispers caught between the lines of faded glyphs. The symbols shimmer faintly in the wavering light, their shapes distorted but stubbornly present. The weight of countless generations presses quietly against your skin, as if the walls themselves hold their breath, watching. The chamber's vastness swallows sound. Your own breath, shallow and slow, resonates within the hollow space, an intimate rhythm matched by the steady pulse of your heartbeat. You advance, shuffling forward in slow increments, the rough texture of your linen brushing softly against the chill that crawls from the floor. The faint flicker ahead pulses, a subtle heartbeat of light against stone so old it might crumble under the weight of eternity. Your gaze lifts to the distant edge where the torch's glow dims, revealing a narrow opening into shadow. Deeper than night, the air moves differently here, cooler and denser, wrapping around you like silent hands urging patience. You hesitate, your breath catching like a whispered secret as the faintest sound reaches your ear, the softest scrape, a movement too gentle to be anything but deliberate. A bead of sweat slides down your temple, slow and warm, momentarily breaking through the chill that seeps into your bones. You swallow, the dryness in your throat a tight knot, yet your hands remain steady, fingers curled softly around the aged amulet. The small weight grounds you, a steady anchor in an ocean of stillness and uncertainty. Drawing a slow breath, you step closer to the opening. The torchlight flickers again, shadows dancing like distant waves of dark silk. The air thickens with the scent of damp earth and ancient incense, the mixture almost intoxicating in its depth. Your ears strain. The murmurs of the tomb feel just beyond your reach, barely audible whispers that seem to flow from the very stones, murmurs that hold promises and warnings intertwined. Your hand brushes alongside the rough wall, fingertips searching the uneven surface, tracing cracks that spiderweb delicately across weathered stone. The path narrows here, drawing you forward under a low arching ceiling marked by centuries of decay. The cold is sharper now, biting into your skin with tender insistence, compelling your breath into shallow puffs that mingle with the dust motes drifting in the thin shafts of pre-dawn light. The flickering glow ahead splits into two faint rhythmic pulses, steady and deliberate, like twin heartbeats, keeping pace with your own measured steps. Your senses sharpen. Time stretches taut, as a thread pulled to its breaking point. Every breath, weighed and held captive within this blurred edge between caution and necessity. Ahead, the passage opens slowly into a broader chamber, where the scent of smoldering herbs weaves thickly through the air. You pause at the threshold, senses flooded with the heavy, earthy aroma, harsh and sweet, like the tobacco fields you only ever heard of, but here, pressed into stone and shadow, woven into this reluctant sanctuary. The shadows shift subtly in the corners, edges softening as if the darkness itself breathes slow and steady now. Your heartbeats echo lightly against the vast stone, tempered by the ticking of an unseen clock, counting down held moments instead of seconds. You step inside, each movement slow, reverent, your fingers tracing the faint outlines of more hieroglyphs carved with painstaking care, their meanings nearly erased but stubborn in their persistence. The ground beneath your feet tilts imperceptibly, a soft crunch of scattered distant end of the chamber, where a barely visible stone slab leans slightly ajar. A faint glow seeps from within its darkened gap, the source of the trembling light you followed. The torchlight blends with this new presence, creating shifting patterns that flicker across the chamber walls, like restless phantoms. You feel the weight of the moment settle on your chest, a heavy, slow pulse that syncs with the flickering flame. Each breath you take seems to pull the shadows tighter, folding around your body like a cloak spun from silence itself. Your fingers tighten around the amulet, the cool metal strength against your skin, a slim tether to fragile hope. A distant rumble vibrates through the air, the soft murmur of stone shifting, subtle but unmistakable. Your body stiffens, every muscle aware and taut as you step closer to the slab. The gleam from within promises secrets long sealed, rituals whispered and locked away beneath layers of dust and time. You pause at the edge, peering into the narrow opening. The light pulses there, steady but mysterious, a quiet beacon in the shadows. The air feels charged, humming with expectation held on a whispered breath. Somewhere deep in the tomb, the ancient curse watches, waiting, untouchable, yet as present as your own quickening heartbeat. You take a final, slow breath. Fingers dancing lightly over the amulet's smooth surface. The torchlight flickers, shadows stretch, and the stone floor beneath you hums softly, alive with silent promises and the distant echo of an open door. Before you can move to step through the threshold, a sudden cold rush surges against your spine, and the pulse of light flares sharply once more, casting a long, slender shadow that reaches toward you like a silent invitation, pulling you deeper into the dark. The torch's flame wavered sharply, casting its uncertain breath of light across the chamber's vast walls. Shadows reaching out like slow, deliberate fingers that seem to both beckon and warn. Your bare feet pressed steadily against the cold stone, each grain of sand beneath them shifting with a faint, almost imperceptible scrape, as if the tomb itself exhaled in silent counsel. You moved without haste, the rough fabric of your linen brushing faintly against the chill that clung stubbornly to the air, each movement dragging minutes into a drawn-out rhythm of patient endurance. The pulse of the flickering flame echoed in your chest, a measured heartbeat guiding you deeper into the unknown. The scent of smoldering resin hung persistently, curling around your senses like a whispered memory, mingling with the faint tang of damp stone, earthy, cold, and infinitely ancient. Your fingers found the jagged edges of a carved relief near the slab, tracing its worn lines as though attempting to decipher some fragment of unfathomable truth pressed into granite eternity. The glyphs shimmered faintly in the torchlight, their forms blurred but resolute, resisting the slow erosion of centuries. Deeper in the chamber, the air thickened, as though swallowing every breath you drew. Your every exhale mingled with suspended dust motes, floating lazily in the scarce bands of pale light filtering down from cracks forgotten by time. A distant drip, slow and relentless, echoed beneath the vaulted ceiling, layering the silence with a subtle rhythm that marked the slow passage of moments, heavy with unspoken dread. You hesitated near the slab's edge, the narrow opening flickering with an unearthly glow that pulsed gently, like a lantern caught in a timid breeze. The stone beneath your fingertips was cool, uneven, and scarred, bearing the weight of countless stories folded into the temple's bones. The chill seeped upward, threading through your skin and settling in the marrow of your bones, grounding you amidst the creeping shadows. Outside, the wind replied with a soft susurration, grains of sand dancing quietly along the tomb's threshold, a muted murmur against the thick stillness inside. The scent of incense wafted faintly upward from the distant altar, a sacred veil wrapping the oppressive quiet with fragile reprieve. Your gaze flickered toward the darkness beyond the slab, where the subtle pulse persisted, steady, patient, a slow hymn to secrets yet untouched. You lower your hand and gather a small breath, drawing calm from the metronome of shadows and light. The amulet nestled in the palm of your hand feels impossibly solid, the last tangible reassurance in a world. You have not yet succumbed to the tomb's weight. With painstaking care, you step forward, the rough stone scraping softly beneath your feet. The narrow passage beyond beckons, lined with ribbed walls that seem to lean in conspiratorially. You press your palm against the cool surface, feeling the faint pulse of ancient energy coursing silently in the carved veins. The air here tastes faintly metallic, thick with the residue of forgotten offerings and slow decay. Your breath comes steady but faint, mingling with the whispering echoes that curl through the passage, soft voices caught between stone and shadow, their language long dissolved into dust. Slowly your fingers trail over a fractured glyph, its jagged edge rough beneath your skin, the carved lines winding like roots of a tree lost to time. A soft sound draws your attention, a distant shudder of stone, subtle yet resonant, as if the tomb itself breathed through its cracks and crevices. Your heart stirs, tongue dry, the sharpness of the moment humming through every nerve. The narrow beam of torchlight catches another revelation, a delicate pattern etched deep into the floor, worn but deliberate, an ancient map leading further into the darkness. The cold air clings tighter as you continue, tapping a steady cadence against the tomb's hollow walls. The proximity of unseen watchers presses light as breath against your neck. Their presence is a ghost trace, a silent pulse of calculation, measured in slow, irrevocable steps. You do not dare quicken yours. Reaching the pathway's end, you pause before a carved doorway, its frame smoothed by centuries of unseen hands. The faint glow beyond flickers once more, revealing an abyssal chamber veiled in heavy shadow. The air shifts, a slow exhalation of earth, your skin like a languid touch. A bead of cold sweat traces down your spine as you lift your gaze, tracing the irregular outline of stone that now quivers with whispered promise. Your fingers clutch the amulet tighter, the metal warm and solid, a tether amid the suffocating silence. The torchlight falters with a sudden sigh, plunging the chamber into near darkness, broken only by the stubborn pulse of the distant glow. Your senses sharpen in the suffocating black, the subtle rasp of fabric against stone, the whispered sliding of dust disturbed by your stillness, the faint resonance of a slow, steady heartbeat, unmistakably yours, measured and insistent in the absence of sound. Then, like a slow bloom in a frozen garden, a faint voice rises beneath the silence, a murmur curling through the air, unfamiliar yet strangely resonant, as if the tomb itself speaks in riddles. You strain to catch the words, but they slip away into the shadows, leaving only an echo of urgent calm. Your breath tightens, the pulse of light pulses anew, brighter this time, unwavering, as if the darkness had been waiting for this very moment to reveal its secret. Your foot shifts forward, breaking the stillness like cracked glass, and the stone beneath you responds with a low, grinding sigh. The chamber breathes around you, ancient and watchful. You feel the slow unfolding of a door within the darkness, a parting stone shifting imperceptibly, a threshold no longer barred but quietly yielding. The weight of centuries presses heavy on your shoulders, the curse's whisper sharpening to a nearly tangible edge. Your heart quickens, and yet you know that stepping forward is no longer a choice, but a necessity. The flickering light swells into a steady blaze, bathing the shadowed doorway in a soft, unwavering glow. You inhale slowly, every sense alert. The threshold beckons, an invitation wrapped in silence and shadow, promising revelations that may yet unravel or redeem. One step closer, you reach forward, fingers trembling, not just with fear, but the fragile hope that somewhere beyond the ancient door lies the thread that may unravel the curse's endless night. And as your palm brushes the cold stone once more, the chamber exhales, a low, shuddering sound that vibrates deep beneath your skin, and the door begins to open. The sudden stillness tightens around you like a shroud, thick and suffocating, as the ancient door inches open just beyond your outstretched fingers. The faint pulse of light deepens into a slow, unwavering glow, revealing the threshold to a chamber concealed for centuries. You sense the air shift, cooler now, as if a breath escapes the walls themselves, drawing you forward, one hesitant step at a time. Your bare feet press firmly against the cold stone floor. Each footfall, a deliberate act against the grainy texture beneath. A tapestry woven with fragments of time and dust. The ancient scent of resin and burnt offerings curls softly around your senses, subtle but unmistakably present, reminding you of rituals performed long before your arrival. Walls carved with faded glyphs loom close, their contours softened by age, whispering secrets that tickle your skin like the trailing touch of a forgotten hand. You move further inside, the narrow opening widening into a vast space dimly lit by the persistent flicker of a solitary torch mounted on a moss-covered pillar. Shadows dance languidly, stretching and bending, as if reluctant to release the mysteries they guard. The temperature drops slightly, the chill threading through your linen and settling deep beneath your skin. A thin mist clings to the edges of the chamber floor, winding slowly around your ankles like the tentative caress of ancient breath. Your eyes settle on the far end, where a stone altar stands, draped in threads of spider silk and scattered ashes. The soft glow reveals faint scratches scored into its surface, worn by countless hands, performing the same careful rites you now follow. You reach out slowly, fingertips grazing the rough edge, the cold stone grounding you anew amid the unyielding silence. The subdued hum of the tomb echoes faintly, a pulse intertwined with your own breathing, as if the temple itself listens to your every move. The scent of old incense swells subtly, filling the space with a melancholy sweetness that mingles with the earthy dampness of stone and sand. A faint tingle brushes your skin, a slow trickle racing along your spine, and you swallow hard as you straighten. A sudden weight presses on your chest. The flickering torchlight catches a movement at the periphery of your vision, a shadow twisting slowly along the wall, intangible yet unmistakable. Your breath stills, muscles taut with a tension earned through countless repetitions of this ritual. Heartbeats seem louder in this vast hush, measured and slow, like the steady march of time itself. You lower your hand, fingers curling tightly around the amulet that has become both shield and talisman, its cold metal solid against your skin. It hums quietly under your touch, a faint vibration that threads through your fingers with comforting consistency amidst the unsettling quiet. Near the altar, a narrow passage yawns into darkness, an inviting void swollen with possibility and threat. The air there tastes different, heavier, as if the very atmosphere bristles with long-held secrets. Soft dust spirals downward, disturbed by the faintest current moving unseen through the chamber, settling slowly back onto forgotten surfaces. Your gaze drifts upward, tracing the cracked ceiling, where unseen cracks spill shafts of pale dawn light. They slice through the heavy shadows like fragile threads, illuminating swirling dust motes that glide weightlessly, caught in an eternal ballet. The sight brings a fleeting warmth, a slender thread of calm amid the pressing tension. You step forward cautiously, each movement prolonged, savoring the slow dance between sound and silence. Your bare feet scrape faintly against the rough stone, stirring minute puffs of ancient dust that rise and twirl, fragile echoes of countless steps before yours. The gentle rustle of your linen blends with the occasional drip of water somewhere distant, a slow, steady rhythm marking the passage of time, eternal and unyielding. The narrow passage ahead seems to breathe. You approach. The glow from within flickers once more. Carved doorway, its surface etched with worn symbols faintly glowing under the torchlight. You notice the unevenness of the stone beneath your palm, cold and pitted like the skin of a long-forgotten guardian. The air here shivers with a quiet electricity, as if the door itself breathes and awaits. A soft grinding noise breaks the silence, a barely audible shift that sends a ripple through the stillness. Your breath catches, held in delicate suspension as the stone begins to move. The hidden door inches open, revealing a glimpse of the darkness beyond, thick and velvety, promising secrets heavy as the grave. Your heartbeat thunders in your ears, loud and insistent. You pause at the threshold, toes curled against the rough floor, fingers pressing into the amulet, which thrums faintly beneath your grasp. The air feels charged with a tension, balanced on a razor's edge, thin as a whispered breath, but sharp enough to draw blood. Suddenly, from the depths beyond the opening, a low glow unfurls, gentle at first, then spreading in slow waves that pulse like the steady beat of a suspended heart. The warmth floods toward you, brushing across the cold stone and wrapping your skin in a subtle embrace. Your breath slows, each exhale feathered and calm, as shadows retreat reluctantly before the rising light. The chamber seems to exhale with you, the ancient curse's quiet grip loosening just enough to reveal a path forward, fragile, dangerous, and utterly irresistible. With the faint pulse of the amulet guiding your hand, you reach toward the darkness, saying nothing, but surrendering to the slow pull of the unknown. The stone door groans softly, opening wider, and the last flicker of torchlight dances away as the shadows within begin to stir. The air shifts again, heavier now, thick with a silent promise, and you step through, crossing the threshold into the waiting dark, where whispered secrets coil, and the weight of centuries leans low to listen. You step fully through the threshold, the heavy stone door sliding shut behind you with a muted groan that sends a shiver along your spine. The darkness folds in close, a thick blanket layering the air with cold and time, pressing in around your bare skin. Your feet, still bearing the grit of the tomb's floor, settle against rough stone that shifts beneath you, not quite cold, but a moisture-rich chill that breathes slowly upward with each measured heartbeat. In this new chamber, the silence deepens, stretched taut like the skin of a drum, holding every whisper captive. The faint glow from within pulses softly, less a light, more a rhythmic certainty, as if the dark has taken shape and now breathes alongside you. You inhale slowly, the air tasting faintly of ancient resin and damp stone, an earthy richness layered with the subtle sweetness of decayed herbs. Your fingers tighten imperceptibly around the amulet, its metal smooth yet heavy, alive with a quiet pulse beneath your touch. It is a thin thread tethering you to the fragile hope that has carried you through these endless rites, through rituals carved in time and dust. You feel the faint vibration echo against your palm, soft, persistent, as the chamber's shadows flicker and breathe in tandem with your own restrained breath. Your gaze traces the faint outlines carved into the walls, symbols long faded, yet stubbornly distinct, weaving stories lost beneath layers of centuries. The roughness under your fingertips contrasts the smooth cold of the amulet, a tactile reminder of the living and the buried entwined here. The scent of incense lingers thick, now heavy and bittersweet, clinging to the air like an invisible veil. A slow drip somewhere in the distance breaks the silence, a sharp, crystalline note that resonates beneath the vaulted ceiling. Time seems to dilate around you, each drop marking the crawl of moments, heavier than the last. You shift forward cautiously, the stone floor grinding softly beneath your bare feet, a whispered counterpoint to your steady pulse. A sudden current stirs the fragile stillness, brushing against the back of your neck like the ghost of a breath. You pause, senses tilting toward the source, a faint rustle, almost indiscernible, weaving through the still air. Your heart takes a tentative rise, each beat a slow echo deeply felt as you listen to the space between sounds. Ahead, the rhythmic pulse of light begins to take form, a gathering presence materializing like the slow bloom of dawn in this tomb's heart. The glow swells, shifting in hue from cold blue to soft amber, as the chamber breathes warmth steadily outward. The air thickens, heavy with expectation, and beneath it, the barely audible scent of warming earth and smoldering incense drifts toward you. Your hands move with deliberate slowness, tracing once again the carved reliefs near your path, curved lines worn deep by countless repetitions, each a silent prayer etched in stone. The worn figures seem to stir beneath your gaze, shifting shadows and light, weaving a slow dance along their surfaces. You feel their quiet gravity pull at your breath, a silent invitation to step further into the tomb's story. The amulet rests firmly now against your chest, the metal's coolness a solid contrast to the warmth radiating from the growing light. Your breath hums softly beneath your ribs, slow and steady, an anchor amid the chamber's deepening mystery. Each step forward is a measured commitment, feet lifting and setting down with a precision honed by necessity, the stone floor both barrier and passage. Sound wanes toward a whisper, broken only by the faint rustling of dust stirred by your careful movement. The shadows stretch long and languid, curling like slow waves along the uneven walls, cradling the pulsing light that pulses with increasing insistence. Your eyes narrow as you approach a stone dais illuminated by the growing glow, its surface cracked, etched with symbols that shimmer faintly, as if alive beneath the flickering flame. You crouch low, brushing the dry dust from pressed offerings that lie scattered like fragile memories, petals turned brittle, fragments of herbs faintly fragrant and damp. The air here carries the scent of time itself, the mingling of decay and preservation, loss and promise, balanced delicately on the edge of shadow and warmth. A subtle tremor shivers through the ground, so slight at first that it might have been imagined. But as your hand inches toward the edge of the dais, the pulse quickens, the chamber vibrating with a deep hum that resonates in your bones. The torchlight flickers wildly, casting jagged silhouettes that dance with urgent flicks of shadow. You inhale cold air scraping softly against the back of your throat. The amulet pulses again, an awakening heartbeat syncing with your own, and your fingers brush across a hidden latch carved into the stone surface. The relic is cool beneath your touch, slick with a thin film of age-worn residue. Your breath stills, hanging in the tight space between possibility and peril. Slowly, with the weight of endless repetition pressing upon you, you press the latch downward. The dais shudders quietly, shifting with a grind of ancient stone against stone that fills the chamber like distant thunder. The air seems to hold its breath as a narrow crack splits along the dais's face, widening imperceptibly until a hidden compartment reveals itself, a dark hollow, bleeding shadows, and a faint gleam, deeper still. Your heart pounds in quiet crescendo. The pulse of light, long the distant companion, now invites you closer, a beckoning anchored in whispered promises and shadowed history. The chamber's breath grows cold again as the quiet promise of discovery hangs thick in the heavy air. You hesitate only briefly before leaning over the opening, peering into the abyss where the faintest flicker, no longer just a glow, but the slow rise of a dawn falsely born, awaits the next touch, the next move. And with that breath, suspended on the razor's edge between dread longer beyond reach, the door behind you remains closed, but the chamber ahead breathes, alive with slow awakening. Your eyes fix on the flickering depths, the quiet heartbeat of light pulsing steadily, an invitation impossible to ignore. The stone beneath your feet shifts imperceptibly as you move deeper into the chamber, the ancient door sliding closed behind you with a slow, reluctant groan, sealing away the murmurs of the outer world. Darkness envelops you like a cool shroud, thick and still, pressing gently against your skin as the faint pulse of distant light beckons from ahead. Every breath you draw tastes faintly of earth and resin, a complex tapestry woven from memories long buried beneath layers of dust and silence. Your fingers tighten around the amulet, the cold metal grounding you amid the lingering chill. Its subtle vibration whispers of a fragile hope, a heartbeat in the overwhelming quiet. You place your bare foot carefully against the rough stone floor, the uneven surface both a harsh reminder and a tether to this precarious reality. Each step forward is a slow, measured negotiation with time itself, the tomb's shadows curling around you like the slow drift of smoke escaping an extinguished flame. The flickering light pulses rhythmically, like the steady beat of a fragile pulse threaded through the dark. Its glow stretches and bends against the carved walls, revealing glimpses of ancient glyphs drowned in the haze of centuries. Every symbol you trace with your eyes is a silent story etched into this living stone, resonant with whispered voices that seem to cling to your skin. You inhale, every breath weighted with the scent of incense long burned and dry dust disturbed by your careful passage. A soft drip echoes tentatively somewhere far above, shattering the heavy stillness with its crystalline note. It threads through the chamber, a tiny rhythm marking the passage of moments stretched to endlessness. Cold air curls along your exposed arms, mingling the faint tang of old stone with a dry bitterness that scratches at the back of your throat. You pause, listening, as the subtle susurrus of shifting air brushes past. A whispered breath stirring the dust motes, dancing lazily in the shafts of dim light. Your gaze falls on a carved relief nearby, worn and jagged, its surface pocked with the scars of time. Your fingers hover, tracing the coarse edges with hesitant reverence. Each groove feels rough beneath your touch, an ancient message, half forgotten but stubborn in its persistence. The air here feels heavy, the tomb's breath slow but unyielding, its presence brushing your skin like a forgotten caress. A faint flutter passes at the periphery of your vision, a movement too subtle to name but impossible to ignore. You freeze. Your breath melts into the silence, shallow and careful. The flicker of light wavers, shadows stretching into fingers that ghost across the walls, reluctant to release their secrets. Your heart steadies mechanically, matching the rhythm of the trembling glow ahead. The passage narrows, and you press your palm against the cold, uneven surface of the wall. Feeling the cool dampness sink into your skin, fingers spread wide, you linger over cracks that spiderweb delicately across weathered stone, the texture fragmented but stubbornly alive beneath your touch. Your bare feet scrape softly against the floor, stirring tiny clouds of sediment that drift upward like fragile memories caught in a slow dance. Ahead, the glowing pulse splits, two steadfast lights that flicker with slow, deliberate frequency. They twin heartbeats, echoing in the still air. You move with deliberate slowness, your every motion soaked in the heavy gravity of suspended moments. The flame's warmth brushes your skin faintly amid the chill, a slender thread of comfort in the deepening gloom. You halt at the opening to a wider chamber swaddled in shadows. The scent of smoldering herbs hangs dense here, rich and earthy, with an undertone of ancient smoke. Your breath catches, the air carries the fragrance like a whispered benediction, binding you to the slow pulse of this space. The walls around you hum with the weight of history, their carved figures etched with the delicate care of hands long vanished. Your fingertips glide over the cracked surface of a stone altar, its edges worn and softened with countless touches. Scattered ashes and brittle petals lie like fragile ghosts, faintly fragrant and brittle to the touch. The faint tremor beneath your feet, barely perceptible but insistent, surges into a low hum that vibrates through your bones, resonating with the delicate thrum of the amulet in your hand. A soft grind echoes quietly as your fingers find a hidden latch nestled among the faded carvings. But tentative press, and the dais shudders, stone scraping stone in a muted thunder that sets the chamber quivering. Slowly, a narrow fissure cleaves open, spilling shadows and a faint gleam that whispers of secrets long hidden beneath layers of dust and time. You lean over the dark hollow, the gentle flicker within, no longer just a distant light, but a slow stirring of something alive, a dawn falsely born in the heart of the tomb. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of whispered promise and cautiously held hope, inviting yet fraught with danger. The door behind you remains sealed, pressing the silence close. But the chamber ahead breathes anew. Your breath slows, each exhale a soft caress against the stone, grounding you in the fragile balance between dread and yearning. Fingers curl tighter around the amulet's cool surface, the beating pulse beneath your palm echoing an unspoken mantra. You shift cautiously forward, feet moving with deliberate grace as the chamber holds its ancient breath alongside you. Then, without warning, the pulse swells, bright, unwavering, as a soft chorus of distant murmurs rises like a tide, curling through the shadows with slow inevitability. The faint, indistinct voices weave through the cold air, neither comfort nor menace, but a draw deeper into an unknown that waits with open arms. Your heart pounds, each beat a heavy drum proclaiming the inescapable truth. The quiet threshold before you is no longer a boundary, but an invitation to cross into the tomb's deepest secrets. And as your hand reaches out to touch the trembling light within, the room exhales, a slow, thunderless sigh that shakes the air and bends the shadows, revealing not the promise of escape, but the beginning of a darkness you were never meant to face. The stone door shifted open with a reluctant groan, revealing a chamber bathed in the soft, steady glow of an otherworldly light. The air settled around you, cool, dense, and heavy with the scent of ancient incense and earth long untouched. Stepping through the threshold, the dust beneath your bare feet yielded with a faint crunch, a quiet testament to the weight of millennia finally giving way. The chamber stretched before you, vast yet intimate, a paradox of silence, alive with the slow rhythm of a heartbeat, hidden deep within its stones. Faint carvings trace the walls, worn by time, yet stubbornly present, their stories etched into the fabric of the tomb's memory. The amulet in your palm pulsed with a steady, comforting vibration, a fragile lifeline binding you to this quiet moment between the past and what still might come. You moved with measured steps, each breath slow and deliberate, filling the room with the soft sounds of life clinging fiercely to presence. The space seemed to exhale alongside you, the tension that had held you captive unspooling like a thread drawn gentle by unseen hands. At the chamber's heart, a stone dais awaited, its surface scarred and cracked, yet holding the solemn dignity of countless ritual offerings. You knelt, fingertips brushing the brittle petals and scattered herbs that told of lost hopes and whispered prayers. Dust motes danced lazily in the soft illumination, their flight a quiet ballet of moments, a final breath. You place the amulet carefully upon the altar's surface. It settled into the worn grooves, as if returning home, a signal to the silent watchers that your vigil had reached its end. The pulse in the amulet slowed, synchronizing with the tomb's deep, measured breath, as though the very stone listened and responded to your unspoken plea. A subtle warmth began to spread, faint at first, like the touch of dawn softening the night's cold edge. The chamber's shadows retreated, relinquishing their grasp in slow waves, and the air lightened with the promise of release. The ancient curse, once a suffocating presence that weighed on each movement, now felt distant, as if sealed away by your steadfast patience and unwavering ritual. You rose, the weight on your chest easing with every step. The amulet's glow faded into a gentle afterglow, not extinguished, but transformed, a quiet guardian marking a boundary crossed, a peace hard won. The cavern breathed anew around you, its long-held secrets folding into silence once more. Outside, the desert wind picked up, carrying with it grains of sand that traced the temple's worn edges like tender fingers. The sun began its slow ascent, pale light sweeping over familiar stones and fragile reliefs, bathing them in warmth that had been absent for too long. You inhaled deeply the dry scent of papyrus mixing with the crisp morning air, a gentle reminder that the world beyond the tomb awaited, endless and unbroken. A soft smile touched your lips, a quiet acknowledgement that survival had neither been by chance nor escape easy, but earned through ritual, resolve, and an intimate dance with mortality. The curse's shadow had not disappeared entirely. Some things bound by time endure like stubborn dust. But you had found the fragile seam where endings blend into beginnings. Your gaze lingered on the distant horizon, where dunes pooled golden beneath the awakening sky. There was no triumphant fanfare, no sudden release from the weight of history, only the slow unraveling of a burden carried in silence. The tomb's whispers faded to a gentle murmur, a lullaby coaxing the restless stones to sleep. You stepped away from the altar, each movement lighter, more serene. The shadows thinned, and for the first time in endless cycles, the chamber felt hollow in a way that invited rest rather than danger. Your bare feet traced patterns on the cold floor that no longer bit with threat, but welcomed with quiet dignity. The amulet, now cool but constant beneath your skin, rested safely near your heart. An old talisman reborn in the fragile twilight of a quiet victory. Outside, the slow warmth of day stretched across the land, casting long, soft shadows that promised rest and renewal. With a final glance around the chamber, you turned toward the stone passage that would lead you back, away from the heart of the tomb, away from whispered curses and silent chains, toward air, light, and the fragile embrace of dawn. The door slid closed behind you with a tender sigh, sealing the past within cool, steady darkness. In its place, a calm stillness settled deep in your bones, the kind that speaks of closure, of journeys ended not with a shout, but with a breath, slow and full. Under the awakening sky, the world turned gently onward, and you, tethered by memories and worn rituals, stepped into the quiet rhythm of a new day. The sun's first light warming your face, the silence behind you a soft, final friend. Sleep, now, could come easily.